The ring lights are too bright. They always are. But tonight, October 2nd, 1980, Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, they feel like an interrogation. Like the whole world is watching something it shouldn't see. Muhammad Ali stands in the corner, 38 years old, moving like 60. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, wraps his hands. Neither man speaks. There's nothing left to say. This fight was supposed to happen 2 years ago, when Ali still had something left. But retirement didn't take. The money ran out. The ego whispered. And now here he is, fighting Larry Holmes, his former sparring partner, for a title Ali never should have given up in the first place. Across the ring, Holmes bounces on his toes, loose, ready. He doesn't want to be here either, but for different reasons. In the crowd, buried in the nosebleed sections, a 4-year-old kid from Brownsville watches. His name is Mike Tyson. He doesn't have a ticket. He snuck in. But he's here because Cus D'Amato, the old man who's trying to turn him into something, told him he had to see this. You need to watch what happens when a man stays too long, Cus said. Mike didn't understand then. He would. But what's truly shocking is what happens in the first round. The bell rings. Ali moves forward. Not the Ali who danced and jabbed and made opponents look foolish. This Ali shuffles. His feet drag slightly. His hands are up, but they're heavy, protective, defensive. Holmes comes forward, careful at first, respectful. He throws a jab. It lands clean. Ali's head snaps back. The crowd makes a sound, not a cheer, something quieter, concern. Holmes throws another jab, another. Ali tries to slip them, but his timing is off by half a second. That half second is everything. Each punch lands. Each one pushes Ali back a little further. By the end of the first round, it's already over. Everyone knows it. The commentators know it. The crowd knows it. Holmes knows it. Ali knows it too. But he won't quit. This is the exact moment everything changed for a kid in the cheap seats. Mike Tyson watches round 2, then 3, then 4. Ali takes punches that would have never touched him 5 years ago. His reflexes are gone. His legs betray him. His hands drop lower with every round. Holmes doesn't celebrate, doesn't showboat. He fights like a man performing a necessary execution. Between rounds, Ali sits on his stool. His face is swelling. His breathing is labored. Dundee works on him, but there's nothing to fix. This isn't damage from one fight. This is accumulated trauma from 20 years of war catching up all at once. The ring doctor checks Ali's eyes between rounds, shines a light, asks questions. Ali answers, barely. The doctor looks at the referee. The referee looks at Angelo. Nobody wants to make the call. Ali stands up for round 9. Mike Tyson, in the stands, feels something he's never felt before. Not sadness, not pity, something darker, something that will live in his chest for the next 6 years. He's watching a god bleed, and nobody's stopping it. Wait, don't miss this detail that shaped everything. Round 10. Holmes throws a right hand. Ali doesn't see it, doesn't slip it, doesn't block it. It lands flush on his jaw. Ali's legs buckle. He grabs the ropes, stays upright through sheer will. The crowd is begging for it to stop. Holmes keeps punching, not because he wants to, because that's the job. You don't stop until the ref stops it or the corner throws in the towel. Those are the rules. But Ali's corner doesn't throw the towel. So Holmes keeps punching, and Mike Tyson keeps watching. Between rounds, Dundee finally does what should have been done 5 rounds ago. He tells the referee it's over, no mas. Ali doesn't protest, doesn't argue, just sits there, face swollen, breathing hard, staring at nothing. The announcement comes. Ladies and gentlemen, referee Richard Green has stopped the contest. The winner, by technical knockout and still heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes. The crowd doesn't cheer. They clap, politely, sadly, like people leaving a funeral. Holmes raises his hands, but his face shows no joy. He walks over to Ali's corner, leans in, says something nobody else hears. Ali nods slightly. Years later, Holmes would tell people what he said. "I'm sorry, champ. I'm so sorry. You won't believe this, but the winner was broken by his victory." Larry Holmes goes back to his hotel room that night and cries. He's 30 years old, in his prime. He just defended his title for the 8th time. He beat Muhammad Ali. That should feel like something. Should feel like validation. Should feel like he finally stepped out of Ali's shadow. But it doesn't. Because he didn't beat Muhammad Ali. He beat a ghost of Muhammad Ali. He beat a man who had no business being in that ring, and everyone knows it. The next day, the newspapers don't call it a fight. They call it sad, tragic, a disgrace that it was allowed to happen. They don't praise Holmes. They question why Ali's people let him step in the ring. Holmes reads every word. Each one cuts deeper than Ali's punches ever could. He'll defend his title 12 more times. He'll retire as one of the greatest heavyweight champions in history. But this victory, this win over Ali, will haunt him forever. In interviews decades later, he still can't talk about it without his voice cracking. "I loved that man," Holmes says, "and they made me hurt him. What you've seen so far is nothing compared to what happened next." Mike Tyson goes back to Cus D'Amato's house in Catskill, New York. The old man is waiting, sitting in his chair, watching tape, always watching tape. "You saw it," Cus says. "Not a question." "Yeah. What did you learn?" Mike doesn't answer right away. He's still processing, still feeling that sick weight in his stomach. "That you can't stay too long," Mike says finally. Cus nods. "What else?" Mike thinks. "That Holmes didn't want to do it." "No," Cus says. "He didn't. But he did it anyway. You know why?" Mike shakes his head. "Because the world doesn't care what you want. The world cares what you do. Holmes did his job. Ali's people failed theirs. They should have protected him. They didn't. That's the lesson." Mike sits down. 14 years old, skinny, angry, scared, trying to understand what he'd just witnessed. Cus leans forward. "You're going to be a fighter, a great one. But being great isn't enough. You need people around you who'll save you from yourself when the time comes. Because the time always comes. And when it does, the thing you love most will kill you if you let it." Mike nods. But he's not really hearing it. Not yet. The lesson will take years to land. This is the exact moment a different kind of fighter was being forged. Cus D'Amato has been training fighters for 40 years. He's seen everything. Talent, heart, discipline, fear. He's trained champions, turned street kids into professionals, made something out of nothing more times than he can count. But Mike Tyson is different. There's a rage in him that Cus recognizes. Not the hot rage that burns out fast, the cold kind, the kind that sits in your chest and waits. Cus knows that rage. He's felt it himself, lost his own fights to it years ago. And now, in this angry kid from Brooklyn, he sees a second chance. A way to prove that rage, properly channeled, properly shaped, can become something unstoppable. So Cus works, every day, drilling technique, building speed, teaching defense. But more than that, he's building something psychological, something dangerous. "You're going to be the youngest heavyweight champion in history," Cus tells Mike. Over and over, like a mantra, like a prayer. Mike believes him. And when Cus shows Mike tapes of Ali, of Holmes, of all the great heavyweights, Mike studies them differently than other fighters. He's not just learning technique. He's learning how to hurt people, how to break them, how to make them feel what he felt watching Ali get destroyed that night in Vegas. The lessons sink in deep, but there was something Mike didn't know yet. 6 years pass. Mike Tyson, now 20 years old, is undefeated. 27 wins, 25 by knockout. He's already the most feared fighter in boxing. People don't want to fight him. Opponents pull out. Promoters struggle to find anyone willing to step in the ring with him. Cus D'Amato died the year before. Never got to see Mike win the title, but his ghost lives in every punch Mike throws. Then, in January 1988, the fight gets made. Mike Tyson versus Larry Holmes. The crowd goes wild when it's announced. This is the fight everyone wants to see. The young destroyer versus the aging legend. The next generation versus the old guard. But for Mike, it's something else. This isn't just another fight. This is the bill coming due for what happened in 1980. Just when they thought it was over, the real story began. Holmes is 38 years old now, the same age Ali was that night. He's been retired for 2 years, but he needs the money, needs one more big payday. So he takes the fight. He tells himself he can still do it, still has enough. He watches tape of Tyson, studies the patterns, sees the openings, convinces himself that experience beats youth. But deep down, he knows. He's stepping into the same role Ali did 8 years ago. And this time, he's not the executioner. He's the sacrifice. The fight happens in Atlantic City, the 22nd of January, 1988, Convention Hall. Mike walks to the ring like he's walking to war. No robe, just black trunks, black shoes, cold eyes. He doesn't bounce, doesn't shadow box, just stands there, staring at Holmes across the ring, waiting. Holmes tries to look confident, tries to sell the idea that he's still got it. But his corner knows. The crowd knows. Mike knows. The bell rings. What happened in the next 4 rounds wasn't a fight. It was inheritance. Round 1. Mike comes forward, hands up, head movement like a pendulum, slipping, bobbing, making Holmes miss. Then, when Holmes commits to a jab, Mike steps inside, throws a left hook to the body. Holmes grunts, backs up. Mike follows, doesn't give space, doesn't give time, just pressure, constant, suffocating pressure. Holmes tries to establish his jab, tries to use his reach advantage, but Mike is too fast, too focused. Every time Holmes throws, Mike counters, hooks to the body, uppercuts, short punches that don't travel far but hit like car accidents. By the end of round 1, Holmes is already in trouble. Round 2. Mike hurts him. A right hand lands clean on Holmes' jaw. His legs wobble. The crowd roars. Mike smells blood, swarms forward. 3 punches, 4, 5. Holmes grabs, holds on. The ref breaks them. Holmes's corner works frantically between rounds. Ice, water, advice shouted fast and desperate. But there's nothing to fix. This isn't a technical problem. This is physical inevitability. Mike is 21 years old, in his absolute prime, at the peak of his powers. Holmes is 38, and every one of those years is showing. Round 3. Mike lands a combination. Left hook, right hand, left uppercut. Holmes goes down. First time in his career, he gets up at 8. The ref asks if he's okay. Holmes nods, lies. The fight continues. Mike walks him down. Holmes tries to move, tries to survive, but there's nowhere to go. Mike cuts off the ring, traps him, lands punches that make the crowd wince. Between rounds, Holmes sits on his stool. His face is swelling. His breathing is heavy. His corner asks if he wants to continue. "One more round," Holmes says. He sounds like Ali in 1980. Round 4. Mike ends it. A right hand to the body. Holmes doubles over. Mike follows with a right hand to the head. Holmes's legs give out. He falls forward. catches himself on the ropes, tries to stand, can't. The referee steps in, waves it off. It's over. Mike Tyson wins by TKO at 2-55 of round 4. Holmes slumps in his corner, beaten, finished, living the nightmare he inflicted on Ali 8 years earlier. And Mike, standing in the center of the ring, feels nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just emptiness. Because this wasn't about beating Larry Holmes. This was about something that happened when Mike was 14 years old. About a lesson Cus tried to teach him. About watching a god fall and knowing, even then, that someday he'd be standing where Holmes stood. Delivering the same mercy Holmes delivered to Ali. The voice on the phone was familiar, but what he said changed everything. 3 years later, Mike Tyson is in prison, convicted, career destroyed, life in pieces. Larry Holmes calls him. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows what was said, but people close to both men say the conversation lasted over an hour. Years later, Mike talks about it obliquely, never gives details, just says that Holmes told him something he needed to hear, something about forgiveness, about understanding, about how winning and losing aren't what we think they are. Larry Holmes is a good man, Mike says in an interview in 2005. People don't understand what he went through, what it cost him to do what he did. He saved Ali from more damage that night in '80, and people hated him for it, called him a traitor, said he disgraced the sport, but he did the right thing, and it broke him. Mike pauses, looks away. When I fought him, I was paying back something that wasn't his fault. I was angry at the world, at Cus being gone, at everything, and I took it out on him. Everyone thought they knew the truth, but the real shock was what Ali said. In 1996, Muhammad Ali lights the Olympic torch in Atlanta. His hands shake from Parkinson's. His movement is slow, but when the flame catches, the world watches in silence. In the crowd, Larry Holmes stands, clapping, tears running down his face. A reporter asks him later what he was feeling. Gratitude, Holmes says, that he survived, that he's still here, that I didn't take more from him than I did. The reporter asks if he ever regrets that fight. Holmes doesn't hesitate. Every single day. What you haven't seen is how this story ends. Mike Tyson retires in 2005. His career is a wreckage of talent and trauma. Wins, losses, chaos. He's broken, trying to figure out who he is without the thing that defined him. He starts doing interviews, podcasts, talking about his life, his mistakes, his regrets. Someone asks him about the Holmes fight. Mike sighs, leans back. I was a kid, he says. I thought I was avenging Ali, thought I was doing something righteous, but I wasn't. I was just perpetuating the same cycle, the same violence, the same cruelty. He pauses. Cus tried to teach me, tried to show me that night in 1980 what happens when you don't know when to stop. But I didn't learn the lesson. I just became another version of it. The interviewer asks what he'd say to Holmes now. Mike looks directly at the camera. I'm sorry. Muhammad Ali died in 2016. The funeral was watched by millions. Larry Holmes attended, sat in the back, didn't speak to reporters. Mike Tyson didn't go, sent flowers instead, a private note inside. Nobody knows what it said. But people who were there say Holmes read it, folded it carefully, put it in his pocket, and cried. This isn't a story about boxing. It's a story about legacy, about how trauma passes from one generation to the next, about how violence, even in sport, leaves scars that never fully heal. Larry Holmes beat Muhammad Ali in 1980 and hated himself for it. Mike Tyson beat Larry Holmes in 1988 and learned too late what Holmes already knew. That winning means nothing if it destroys something sacred in the process. That greatness always ends. Always. And the only question is whether you let it end with dignity or you force it to die in front of everyone. That night in Vegas, the 2nd of October 1980, didn't just end Ali's career. It planted a seed in a 4-year-old kid who would become the most dangerous fighter of his generation. A kid who would carry that lesson in his bones for the rest of his life. Who would learn, through pain and failure and time, that the real fight isn't in the ring. It's with yourself. It's knowing when to stop. And it's forgiving the people who didn't. Because they were just trying to survive. Same as you. Same as everyone. Ali knew that. Forgave Holmes years before Holmes forgave himself. Holmes knew that. Forgave Tyson before Tyson asked. And Tyson? He's still learning. Still fighting the ghost of that night in 1980. Still trying to understand what Cus tried to teach him. That the strongest thing you can do isn't winning. It's walking away. Before you become the thing people have to watch while wishing they could look away.